So here I am again, trying to make sense of why I have such a huge emphasis on sexuality, but work so spiritual. And I need to tell you a story of what has come through to me in a meditation, in a kind of trance state. I took on the challenge to conquer that area that was held in greatest shame, the greatest limitation for myself. And that was my sexuality. I was struggling enormously with the sexual energy that was available, and to take that in and then to contain it and manage it and control it and point it in certain directions, the way how I wanted to experience this and what I want to do with it. There was a lot of shame there. So I went and conquered that. I explored it. I got the training that I needed, which I'm so grateful for. So I climbed up the tree, or mountain, let's say it that way. It was a huge mountain. And as I came up to the peak and I looked over that peak, suddenly a massive, much bigger mountain showed up that was hidden in the shadow of it, because the way how it goes, you can't see what's really behind it. And I said, my God, what is this mountain? I thought that was it. And then I saw it was God. So my greatest mountain to climb was not the mountain of sexuality. That was only a smokescreen. That was only a deterrent to say, it's like, oh, don't go there. But to actually go and speak openly about God, about my relationship and my connection to God and who I am, that split aspect between there's God and there's I am. And what is I am other than God? So I must be then a son of God or a child of God. But hold on, I'm sexual. And this is a really strong, heartfelt feeling that I need to pursue to be who I am. And a healer that I used to work with, he said to do is, Kai, you need to take part in life again. And he said, it's like, no matter what you are, if you are that, you need to do that. Because if you're a good one, like the purpose of you lies in doing, for example, being the sexual healer, then it's really important that that person who really has the purpose of to be a sexual healer, that he does the sexual healing and doesn't become a dentist or a vet, but that he does the sexual healing. Because otherwise, the baddies will do it. Or those who don't have the inclination, who don't are led by purpose through doing it. So it's really, really important. You need to take part. You need to accept and honor of who you are. And what I have come to it with, what I wanted to explore and wanted to show, is that it perfectly fits into a timeline. My life has been enormously difficult to struggle with the concepts. There is the sexual, the tantra side, the sexuality as a spiritual path. To bring this together, this the same energy, it's life, but it's the opposing sides, and connect them together and be able to harmoniously use all that is in between those two extreme points and make paradise or heaven on earth on here because of that. Not that I'm limited and caught in one or the other, but in this as well as. I can be either or, in between, in every single position or reference point in between those two things I can be. From extreme here to extreme there. From being, like I always say it in the terms of the holy Madonna to the holy whore, right? Or the slut. I can be everything and everything in between. And this is what the timeline that we're living through is all about. I want to quickly explain this again. We had God creating two parts, Adam and Eve. Then we said, there was this divide, this ancestral divide, this death divide, anything that has become before us. So then what happened, there was father and mother, and they got together and they created children. So because here's the masculine side, here's Adam, here's the father, here's the son. So let's do it that way. There's the masculine side, there's the feminine side, therefore that needs to be the father, that needs to be the son, that's the mother, and that's the daughter. And it's really important because we always say about the relationships, a mother has a very close bond to her son, and a father has a very close bond or a delicate structure to his daughter. And to really follow our purpose, what we have to do is, there is another divide here, where we have to let go of our parents. Because it says in the Bible, there shall only be one to be called your father, the Father in heaven. Therefore, it's really important that this matrix level here is being surrendered and has been released so that you can become the son, daughter, the masculine and the feminine part, that you unite that as one. The same as they got together here and created the child, the son or the daughter, the masculine and the feminine. If they are uniting, when the two become one, really important, then in the alignment, God, your Christ consciousness, your Christ being. So this is the part. Now, what is really, really cool is that these two parts, if you would look at that, they're two fish, right? Here's the tail, here's the fish body, and also here's a fish, here's an eye, and here's an eye, and here's the tail. So these two fish, the Piscean age, you know, these two things where the two fish run or swim in complete different directions. This is also here, because what it shows clearly is the one fish, the one journey you have to choose in the vertical level. You have to go up the spiritual path, or you have to go down the material, the physical path, or let's call it the sexual path. So you choose matter or you choose spirit. You go one or the other. And what divides that in between is, of course, is the emotional. It's all our imprinting of what we have learned from our parents and so on that we need to let go of, that limits us, that restricts us in who we are. They tell us who we are, but we're not that. We have just come through them into our life to surrender it. It says in the Bible that if you die in the life, you'll never have to die again. This is what it really means. If you go into the death of the matrix here, then you're free. Because as long as you're in there, you will be forced to go one or the other way. But now what happens in the new age, in the Aquarian age, is basically the Aquarian, what is also called freedom. The rebel is, God has a sign that is like a big circle with a dot in the middle. So that's all there is, right? God has made everything with a focal point, and the focal brings the awareness to a particular experience. So that's the chaos, the kind of the experiences that are available, the feminine, the body, right? And it's the awareness, it's the focus, it's the masculine. And within that, we have now the two fish swimming opposite directions, but now they're swimming in all directions. right? This is, you have to go this or that way, but now this sign becomes actually much more the rebel, freedom. Now you don't have to go one or the other. You can be everything. And this is really what it is. It's about, we're now in an age where it's safe to follow your bodily instincts, where you integrate your bodily needs and requirements and desires into a spiritual path. So sexuality is now really ready to be a spiritual path also, because it fits in the zeitgeist. It fits in the time there is, where we don't have to decide one or the other, but where the focus comes on to that you can be as well as. Remember, the frequency of Earth is rising up. We're getting more and more in our head, and our heads in our heart, and therefore our heart has a lot more compassion. We can do much more things. There's more compassion is there, the wider the scope gets, the more of the experience we can take in, because we're in our heart space, not in our judging and limiting head space. So this is really important, that we are now coming into the Aquarian age, and therefore the integration of the two sides, of the two extremes, are now become intermixed and become available to say, it's like, choose. Today this, tomorrow that. In one moment that, in the other moment that. You're all of that. Because as above, so below. So if you accept that you're a child of God, being a Christ here on earth, then you're everything. God made everything perfect as it is. So why wouldn't you be everything? Sexuality side would be this little slice of the pizza over here. But in this, there gives thousands, infinite shades of what sexuality can look like. It's not just penetration, but it could be any kind of penetration. It could be any kind of interaction. It could be any kind of creative process to express yourself in a physical, sexual, intimate way. And this has nothing to do, is nothing against spiritual anymore. But the question is, can we take the emotional matrix out of the way to unlearn what we have learned, to be everything there is, to swim in the whole pond and make our experiences and integrate them into a holistic, healthy being. Take a little bit there and take a little bit there, and it's all about the experiences that matters. Not the path that you go this path and you walk this path. There is no truth in someone else's path for you. You have to find out your own truth. And if you meet people on the way, then you know, you maybe have gone onto the path of someone else, not your own path. You maybe cross the lines now and again, but you have to walk your own path. And your own path is 360 degrees of a circle, and you can swim everywhere, and it's all good, and it's all love, and no matter what, it's as well as. There's nobody anymore who's going to judge you to be, you're not right, because otherwise I would be wrong. This is the main thing. Beforehand it was like, I was right, you're wrong. This is the patriarchy. Coming out of that is like compassion, saying, wow, this is your journey. Tell me of your experience. I don't judge you for being spiritual and sexual, for being a spiritualist and also a sexual healer. For me, God is so important. For me, the purpose I get is always lining me up and saying, help people with their sexuality. Go and heal with your body. Yeah, even sleep with them, if it has to be. If that is part of the puzzle. Against all the odds of what psychology says, or different things, work with projections that are there. Take them on board. And realize the emotional burden that we carry here, what is right and what is wrong, the old age. And now we're in a new age, and therefore there are new rules. When we have learned what we have learned in the old age, we're going into a new age, then we have to learn new rules. We have to open up to new ways of being, for a new kind of consciousness, rather than doing wrong what so often science does. They put a foundation up and then they keep that and build on this. But the interesting thing with the world is it always flips. We are in a pole shift. In the tarot there is the hanging man. So the hanging man is, it turns upside down. That was what was above will be below. So the masculine traits that were dominant now flip and they will become vulnerable. And the experience that was suppressed and so on suddenly will be the one who is calling the shots. So with that, new rules are there and we need to stay open. And the new pathways for our truth, and each has their own, is coming from our heart. It's freedom. It's not mental anymore, but it's freedom. To say whatever your heart tells you, that is okay. That means today you have a prayer and the next moment you make love. And that's perfectly okay. And then you go back to prayer again and be grateful and thankful of what you have experienced. So it all comes together. And this is the importance. This is my journey of doing the split of the two extremes, of the polarity, of the duality, to become one again. That's the great thing. This is the time of where we go from the separation back into oneness, where we create this pool for the fish to swim in. The big water reservoir, the emotions that are free to be chosen, not because we are attached to them, because they define us, because we can go and choose which parts of those we want to embody. If there's now really here or there, or in this area of the emotional sides, but also what I think with the pole shift that's really important is this construct will change, and the father mother will go onto the one side, and the son and daughter will change onto one side. Therefore, we will get parents that are complete, that embody the masculine and the feminine within the father and within the mother. So it's a holographic universe. That means the smallest part is in the biggest part and vice versa. Therefore, this oneness within the duality. So if this is the oneness part, the feminine part, then the feminine part has the duality in it. So the feminine part of Eve is a Eve who is a mother and a father. She is whole, she is complete. In one side aligned to the vertical line to bring down the Christ being. So that means we will become really, really complete and whole parents, fathers and mothers. A father who has their feminine integrated and available to themselves. A mother who has their masculine integrated and available to herself. A child who comes into this world, therefore, who grows up being complete, not codependent, but being complete, because a boy has his masculine and his feminine, 100% of the masculinity, 100% of the femininity available to himself. A daughter who comes into the world and has 100% femininity and 100% masculinity available to herself. She knows she's whole. And if you're whole, you're very close already here. Because when you're whole, the limitation of wholeness is very little. You don't have to go into illusions. An illusion is the greatest limitation. And everything that God made was perfect. So therefore it was whole. Everything that is not whole, illness, sickness, and so on, is an illusion. So if we can call that, and if we know that we're whole, because we don't need anything else to complement ourselves, that we're good enough, that we deserve anything there is, we can also manifest that. My invitation to you, take the two parts of the duality, whatever you're struggling with, and may it be spiritual and sexual, the one that I have worked through for such a long time now. Take it And don't worry too much about the extremes of one and the other. But look at the reference points that you can fill out in between that. That's life. There's birth and there's death. But life happens in between that. So what can you do in between all of that? And so often you just start in the middle. Yeah, because that's where the flow is. That's where you're aligned. That's where the universe comes to you rather than you have to come to the universe. Another 20 minutes are over. Hope there was something interesting. I hope it didn't throw out too many informations that then don't make sense. Please do get in contact with me if you want to work with me, if you want to explore the subject closer, if I can help in any way around sexuality, if that is online or in person. I would be most happy to hear of you. And till another time. Speak soon.